don't like seeing stand-up where it's like, you know me as Roy Kent, but in real life, I'm like this. I didn't want to do that.
Welcome to Good One. I am your host, Jesse David Fox, senior writer at Vulture and author of Comedy Books. My guest today is Brett Goldstein. We talk about his first stand-up special, The Second Best Night of Your Life, co-creating and now appearing on Apple TV Plus' Shrinking, and how, for a time, he thought his voice choice for Roy Kent might ruin Ted Lasso. We also get a visit from some very small, very furry friends, which you'll have to wait to see what that means. So here is Brett Goldstein. I'm here with Brett Goldstein. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of
the
show and of Vulture.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say. I'd like to start here. In the last week, can you think of the funniest thing that happened to you or the funniest thing you noticed?
I keep notes in my phone if something funny happens or something that may become a bit. Looking at it, one of them absolutely can't talk about. A producer that I have been working with. Do I say that? Someone I've been working with. Kept saying to me, I like you so much, you really remind me of someone. Been saying that for days, and then sent me a text saying, I remember who you remind me of. I had a Dalmatian and it killed itself. But it was always smiling and it really reminded me of you. And I was like, thank you for this compliment about a dog that killed itself. That's very sweet. And then she doubled down the next day and sent me a picture of a quite mad-looking dog.
Does it look like you?
I hope not. And I can't work out if she was roasting me, if she meant it. I don't know what. Because at first I was like, maybe this is misguided. Mm-hmm. But the doubling down and with the terrible picture, I was like, does this person hate me? I can't work out.
It feels very profound for how casually she brought it up.
Yeah.
So to talk about sort of your process of how an observation like that gets into a joke, I want to discuss one of my favorite jokes from your first special, The Second Best Night of Your Life, which is a joke which is plays versus musicals.
Because I do actually think it's important to speak your truth. And I don't want to pretend I'm something I'm not anymore. So I'm just going to say it, then it's been said, okay? I love musicals, all right? I love musicals, but I hate plays. Plays are boring and you all know it. Once you've enjoyed a musical, very difficult to get back to a play. Once you've experienced the majesty of defying gravity, very difficult to get anything out of to be or not to be. You're talking, plays are boring.
Can you talk, where did that joke start? What was the initial observation or kernel that got you there?
You know, sometimes it's fun in stand-up to take an extreme stance that you half mean, and I half mean that I think all plays are fucking boring. And I think there is. So then it was like a load of stuff about plays being boring, and then how I secretly do like musicals. And I had it's still a long bit in the special, but it was longer. I had a longer bit about going to see Uncle Vanya and and how it was 4 hours, and I'm really angry about it. And it's like, and I'm like, and by the way, I understood the play. It was about a man thinking he might have wasted his life. I feel you, Vanya. So there was that sort of stuff about plays. And then I went to see my friend in Romeo and Juliet, and I had a different bit about that, about how like that's kind of the greatest sacrifice I've ever made for a friend. and then there is that thing about people, the way people laugh at Shakespeare plays, where you're like, this isn't funny, you fucking liars.
So
so it's a combination. It was sort of all these bits
that were just sort of things that kept on being in your head, and then
I may have done this separately. I did the Romeo and Juliet bit separately, and I did the Vanya bit separately, and then it all started to be like, oh, that actually goes with this and that goes with this. But then ultimately being like, musicals are better than plays because stuff happens. I went to see Romeo and Juliet. It is an exact rip-off of West Side Story. I don't like the idea of punching down. I try not to punch down, but I like that I'm like furiously taking down Shakespeare. Like this cunt. Like that's funny to me that this is who I'm fucking giving it to. And also About Time. It's terrible. It's a terrible writer. The plots are terrible. All of them. Stupid. This one has to dress up as this one, who has to dress up as this one and pretend to be sexually assaulted to get someone else. Ridiculous. Why is this man revered?
How much Shakespeare have you consumed in your life?
More than enough. More than enough, I think.
This will be the first of many questions. Was like, is this because you're British? I have no sense of like...
It's the thing. It's just, there's always Shakespeare on. I'm like, haven't we seen enough? Why is someone else doing Hamlet? Why the fuck is Hamlet on again? What's going on? Is there no one got anything new to say? You're doing Hamlet again? It was boring the first time. Someone's like, I haven't done my Hamlet. I don't need to see it.
Yeah. I think my favorite is the Hamlet or Macbeth, doesn't matter which you sort of repeat. And you'll do that a few times. You'll do like a little sort of understated little repeat.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought about this joke, and I think it thematically connects to things that you've talked about, is it is the tension between art. The art is doing it versus the art is for the consumption of it. Like how much are you making things to entertain people or for people to watch, or how much are you making things because you like making things?
See anyone doing Hamlet.
Yeah, it's like, is it for them to try out different types of acting, or is it...
Why do we have to suffer through it? You could go and do Hamlet. I'm not... You just don't sell tickets.
But if someone offered you to do Hamlet...
I don't think I'd do it.
So that's where you draw the line with the plays.
I think I would... Oh, yeah, so that's the extra bit that came from doing the special, was that I also know I'll do a play. And that as much as... the reality is, of course... I've seen a good play, maybe one.
Yeah.
I've seen Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and it was fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
I know good plays exist. And I also have done plays years ago and found them very fun to do. So I was like, if I'm putting this in the special, one day I'll do a play and this clip will be used against me. So I need to put a disclaimer, a cheeky disclaimer in, which I did.
It's also like a good advertisement for the casting in your play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'm open to plays. You just named Virginia Woolf. I think people will be like, oh, I could see him being Virginia Woolf. I imagine one of the most difficult things to wrap your head around is the audience perception of you now and your status and your sort of persona. So you did your last Edinburgh show, I think, in 2018, and you had one career in England, and then COVID happens, and then Ted Lasso happens, and you're in the States doing stand-up, and a lot of the audience's relationship to you is so different than it was when you started. So I want to talk a little bit about how you've grown into that transition, to get a sense of how you've had to address that, or what you've learned from it. But let's back up a little bit, because I want to talk about where you were in 2018 and to really capture what Ted Lasso was. I read and listened to interviews you did in 2018, 2019, and I describe your energy as like acceptance. Like you've been through the ringer of development hell, and you've like had projects, and they sort of, I think in the special you said they were kicked down a well. So pre-Lasso, can you talk about thinking a big break just wasn't going to happen, but that was okay? Like, was there a specific moment of realization of like, okay, well, this is my career?
I think there was. There really was. I've talked about, like, as in, it's sort of easy to say now, but I did sort of genuinely find like spiritual acceptance, and it changed everything, because I was always working. I always wanted to work. I always wanted to make stuff. And I was just at a very smaller level, and I was small parts in TV shows and occasionally a regular, but in England, that's like 6 episodes, I was always working. I was always doing a little part in something, and I was writing for other people, and I script edited other people's shows, and but everything that was like the thing that was my thing didn't happen, and would get kicked down the well, and all of those things. And then I did make a film, Super Bob, which I'm very, very, very proud of, but it was on in 3 cinemas and didn't change anything, I don't think. And I'm very grateful that people like it who've seen it, but that's probably the same 50 people who saw me do stand-up, And I came and did pilot season, and I did an HBO pilot that didn't get picked up, and I came back the next year and I did a pilot with Bill Lawrence, and that didn't get picked up, but both of them were really good. And then I came back, I believe it was the next year, for pilot season, and all the pilots that I read were shit, really shit. And I say that with love.
They're all on the air currently.
Absolute dog shit. I don't think any of them are on the air.
Okay.
And I remember being like, I'm here to audition for stuff and I don't even want to. This is all shit. And I didn't go for lots of them. Then I went in for one audition because I'd been there too long. I was like, I better go to something. And I remember leaving the room wanting to say to the people, by the way, I really don't want to be in this. I think it would be the worst 7 years of my life if it's happened. Please don't cast me. But I was there and I was staying with my friends in Highland Park with lovely, lovely people, Dana and Dan. And I was there and I was still I was helping someone else with the script. And I sort of had this moment where I was like, you know what? I'm not a baby anymore. I think the window is past. Whatever that window may have been for a sort of Brett Goldstein show or film or whatever the thing is, I think it's gone. But I work all the time. I make things and I make my own stuff and I write my own things. And I love the making of, truly. I love making stuff. I love making short films. I love the creative act. I fucking love it. It makes me feel connected to the universe and gives me purpose and makes me happy. And I'm still doing that. I'm doing it at a very low level that 50 people see.
Sure.
But I do stand-up every night and I make stuff and I help people with their scripts. If this is my life, pretty fucking sweet life. I make enough money to pay my bills and I wear black t-shirts and I go to the cinema. I don't spend a lot of money. I don't need, I always make enough.
Yeah.
And if this is it, I'm a very lucky man. And I genuinely sort of let go because I was like, I don't want to fight for this shit pilot. I'm happy making good stuff at a low level, small stuff.
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks later, Bill Lawrence calls, says, do you want to come work on Ted Lasso? And my show soulmate Scott Greenlit, which had been in development for 7 years.
Yeah.
So then everything.
So then everything happened. Let's talk a little bit about Ted Lasso. You've told the story about getting the part of Roy Kent a million times.
Yeah.
I've heard you tell it a million times. I can imagine you've told it 2 million times.
You're going to make me tell it again?
No. I'll summarize it.
Okay.
You're a writer on the show. The character of Roy Kent existed. You're like, this guy's me. I should self-tape an audition, send it to Bill, say, hey, if you don't like this, we'll never talk about it again.
This is good.
But because you have this story, can you take me to the day of the self-tape? Like the day you were doing it, can you just talk about what that day was like, where you're preparing to say the scenes, what scenes did you pick? How did you approach it?
Yeah, I can tell you. I went to my manager at Mosaic. I went to his office. They have like a little sort of white room where they have a camera and you set up and you do self-tapes with someone that's an assistant in their office. And I went there. And what's funny about it is I read with this assistant who was I believe, Norwegian man. So I had a Norwegian man reading him for Keeley off camera. Mm-hmm. Yeah, me and this Norwegian man really had some chemistry, I guess. Yeah, and I think I did it I worked very hard on it. Did a while, kept this poor Norwegian man at work a long time, and then, yeah.
Did you have the voice? Like, did you find the voice over the course of the day?
I think the voice, I think it wasn't as extreme as it became or as gravelly as it was, but it was definitely on its way there.
It's interesting you mentioned the car park scene, or the parking lot scene, as we would call it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's fine. I knew what you meant. Because I rewatched the show, and that scene, you go, that's it.
Yeah, Roy, well done.
I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. I was also an idiot yesterday, so...
It's okay.
Good night, Keeley. Yeah, I felt it in the right when that's the scene that was the one for me.
Where you're like, oh, he's not going to be just a color in the palette of the background. Yeah. Like, he's a driver of more, like, he will take up space in the show comedically, specifically you in that part, because you're doing Ted and you have levels of that performance.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
No problem.
That's nice. You really get me.
Oh, get ready. I'm about to get Can you remember a moment when you get the part? Can you remember a moment where you're shooting it where you felt affirmed that you were the right for the part, or even a moment where you felt you weren't? And then
a lot of the time I felt truthfully it wasn't until season 1 came out I really wasn't sure, and I don't think anyone was, because it's a big swing. Like I've got this shoulders back fucking stance. It's got a voice. Like it's not nothing.
Yeah.
I'm taking some big swings. And I don't think everyone was sure about it at all. I think there was a lot of doubt. And so I had the fear. I remember me and Hannah Waddingham speaking like a few days before it came out, going, like I assumed the reviews would be like, there's one very bad person in this show. There's one person really ruined this show, but the rest of it's great. So thank God it was well received, because I genuinely wasn't sure. It wasn't like, yeah, I knew. Like I felt, I don't know, it's weird because I forget that bit, because by season 2, we had the feeling that people liked it, and then it was much more, I think everyone was more confident season 2, but season 1, you don't know what the fuck's
Did
going
you win an Emmy before you shot season 2?
I can't remember. Maybe we were mid-filming. I don't know the answer to that. That's a great question, though. I wish I did.
Well, you've said in interviews different versions of you don't like small talk and you got it to stand up to avoid dinner parties. And then you're in a situation where you're nominated and winning awards.
Yeah.
And essentially the largest, highest stakes dinner parties in Hollywood. Having to go these things, like how are the Emmys for you? Do you remember?
The Emmys. Oh, yeah, I remember very well. Well, I remember that the first one was really quite pure. And I say that sort of with love. That's my catchphrase today. I say this with love. As in, there is definitely an argument, having now experienced much more of it. There is a fucking industry, the awards industry, and it's months of, I now understand much more the machine of it, and the FYC events and the campaigning and there's a lot of stuff, and it makes a lot of noise and it takes up a lot of space. And you can be cynical about it for sure. But the season 1 Emmys, we were like naive innocents in a magical woodland. Like there was nothing cynical about those Emmys in a way that was lovely when I think back at it. Like just a real where are we? And also it was still COVID-y, so it was smaller. So it was a bit more manageable maybe. We're only allowed 200 people in the room or something. And just us being a gang of innocent, we just didn't know this. There was no, I don't know, there was no agenda. Because I think we came into it pure-hearted, we're not going to win, we're nobodies, we're just little people from England. And this sort of magical, it felt really magical in a way that probably now I don't necessarily think we could have that experience again, because you're much more aware of the machines. You know what I mean? So you win, and then you win, and it was amazing, because I truly didn't expect to win. No joke, not being humble. Someone had said to me, write something because you just should, but I didn't believe it was a thing, and I don't even, when they said my name, I didn't understand it. And everyone stood up around me, and then I saw my name on the screen. I was like, oh, fuck, I guess.
I gotta go walk to...
I gotta do this thing now, right?
I imagine then after that, you were less nervous that you were doing a bad job. Can you think of a day on set where you're like, this is special? Shooting this show, doing this character right now is a special day.
Oh, yeah. Loads of them. Loads and loads of them. I mean, I always I hate to pick people because I really, really love everyone, but anytime I had a scene with Phil, with Jamie Tart, was hard because we would laugh, really ruin all the time, very bad together, but fun. But I loved, particularly season 2, me and Keely, I loved all the stuff with us and with Phoebe. And there was something special about when me and Juno did the Roy Keely stuff, because we spent a lot of time in her house, which was separate from the set. So it always felt like a kind of special island. And there was something really, she's so brilliant and so open, and it felt sort of genuinely intimate and kind of, I don't know. And there was the episode, so I really love the episode, the moment when he's made a bath for her in season 2, and it's the Phoebe Walsh wrote that episode. And I think in the script, the words are the same as they were in the script, but I think it was like he's drawn her a bath, but then Juno was like, can we have a minute on our own? And we kind of worked out this routine of undressing her in a way that kept everything covered, but he's undressing her, and as he's undressing her, he's saying, your feet are disgusting, but in a very romantic way. And I've really loved that scene. I think it's very special, and it felt very like magical. It was a great bit of writing from Phoebe, and us finding it together was also lovely. I just like that.
Yeah. What is interesting is before Ted Lasso, a thing would happen where you might say in an interview that you have anger, and people would be surprised.
Yeah.
They'd be like, what, you?
Yeah.
And then sort of an opposite thing happens where Ted Lasso, where people are surprised that you're not constantly being angry. Considering that, what is it then doing stand-up now that you have so much of your audience who knows you from this character?
I don't know what people were expecting. I was surprised that people bought tickets to my stand-up show, having never seen my stand-up. I don't like seeing stand-up where it's like, you know me as Roy Kent, but in real life, I'm like this. I didn't want to do that. And I never had to, which surprised me. I sort of thought this might be an issue, but it wasn't. I also think the thing I had on my side is absolute zero expectations from the audience. As in, I don't think anyone knew I'd done stand-up. Perhaps they thought this is like an actor trying stand-up. So the fact that I actually am, I hope, a competent stand-up who's got lots and lots of years of experience, perhaps I come out, they go, I don't know what I'm getting, and they go, oh, he appears to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
We can relax. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I imagine the opening was very important to be like, oh, this is like a regular thing.
This is like stand-up. Yeah.
Did you have any bad experiences or any bad shows where people called out for you to do it? To do the voice?
I occasionally would have people do the chant, and I had a sort of joke to shut that down. And that was a sort of complicated thing as well, where you realise, I always found it a bummer, but then I'd be like, they don't know. They think they're excited. Like, so it was sort of finding the balance of letting them have that moment without it becoming too much of a, Yeah,
you don't want them to feel bad for liking your work.
Yeah. We want to be like, that's not what we're doing here, you can't.
Yeah, and I do think it helps you say the word Ted Lasso twice or so in the special. And that
I did realize I needed to say it because then they clap and it's done.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah, he knows he's done Ted Lasso. He's in Ted Lasso. Like, it definitely, Mo Welch, my opener, she said to me, she was like, they're waiting for it. Like, you need to acknowledge it because they want to hear at least it's happened. Whereas I wanted to be pure, it's just pure stand-up, but actually, let them have their fucking minute. You know what I mean?
I'm not going to ask you about Ted Lasso season 4 because anytime people do, you're dodgy as hell about it. But I spoke to Jason Segel recently and asked him about the potential of 4th season of Shrinking. Despite in the past, you all talked about how Bill had a season 3, only planned for 3 seasons. And he was affable and he's like, yeah, we'll probably do a 4th season. You didn't set out to do 4 seasons of either of these shows. Yeah. But
like, how do you come up with the 4th?
Or how do you come up with it, or how do you sort of get motivated to do it when it's not necessarily like the art you set out to do, but art you are...
I think it's to do with the people and the characters and the actors, and things are different. You have the plan, but then this world starts to build in front of you, and you fall in love with things you didn't know you'd fall in love with. And I don't want to sound woo-woo, but I do mean this. You sort of have to stay open to the signs and things. You always have a plan, but the plan will change because someone is different and what everyone brings. And so, yes, we've stuck to that plan, but there's so many new, wonderful things within it that it's like, oh, we could, like, I think, I don't know, it's the world do you want to hang out in that world anymore? And if so, it's only worth doing if you're going to do it as well as you've done, as well, if not better.
Yeah.
But unless everyone, I don't know how to put it other than, all I can say is me and Bill were talking the other day, we were like, da, 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 and then he said something and it was like, oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Like when the idea's there, if you remain open to it, and the idea comes and you're like, oh, that's a good one. Then suddenly we're like, oh fuck, maybe there is more.
Let's talk a little bit about Shrinking. How's working with Jason Sudeikis and Jason Segel different?
I mean, it's a ridiculous question. They're two different human beings. But
the first name is the same.
Their first name is the same, and they're both very, very talented. And they're different in the way that people are different. But they're both excellent Jasons.
This season you play Lewis, the character that killed Jason Segel's wife in the car accident. Can you walk me through coming up with that storyline and then thinking of the character that would fit that storyline and then the decision to have you play it?
So the idea was, it'd always been this three season plan. Season 1, grief. Season 2, forgiveness. And the thing that I know Bill likes and I love to do is make something really hard, as in, look, it does it in Ted Lasso. You start with Roy Kent, you sort of hate. Mm-hmm. He seems like a dick, and then you have to win him, win him over, get the audience to invest in him. And Jamie Tart, perfect example of that. That's like a version of it. But then with Shrinking, it was this thing of, the idea of forgiveness is very simple. We built this world. Season 2 is always more fun to write than season 1, I think, and I've been very, very, very lucky to have been in that position. Mm-hmm. But it's fun season 2 because you've now done the world building. You've got your characters. You like them all. You like these actors. Now what do we do with them? Here's the idea of forgiveness. What's the hardest experiment we can place into this world? And it is easy to say, forgive people. It's good to forgive people. What about the man who killed your wife?
Yeah, you should go. I know you must hate me, but you're good. I would really like.
Get the out of here! Get out of here! Get the out of here!
That's now interesting and not straightforward and genuinely murky, in that if by the end of 12 episodes, Jimmy says, I do not forgive you, we as audience go, okay, we still love Jimmy and it doesn't mean he's wrong. That's interesting. That like gives you, then there's drive, then there's meat, and then everything else. And then you're going, okay, so everyone else has got something that needs forgiving, whether it's themselves or their whatever. But that, as a kind of experiment to drop into this world, is very exciting and rich, I think, dramatically. Mm-hmm. So that was the start. What was the second part of this question?
Who is this person? And then why is this person you?
So then the thing that I think is, again, to do with the hate and stuff, is you start with how people think of other people. Like, it's very easy to make people two-dimensional. And so he's the drunk driver. And when Alice talks about him, when she writes her letter, it's like, fuck you, drunk driver. And that minimizes him as a person to, drunk driver. You make all kinds of associations with that word, with those words, and you make it... It's a villain. Here's this villain, drunk driver. He killed your wife and mother. And then as the thing progresses and you see more and more details of the thing, you go, he was drunk. We were very clear on, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't, as in, of course it was a mistake, but as in, he wasn't arrested or, he was drunk. And, but when we reveal in the flashback, he was slightly over the limit in the same way that I'm sure lots of people have gone, we can drive home, we're just around the corner. So it was this kind of, the more details you give and the more you spend time with him, the less this two-dimensional villain you have, the more it's like, this is just a guy and this horrific thing happened and it was a terrible mistake and he has to live with this somehow for the rest of his life. But it then is hard to, you realize he's lost as much as Jimmy's lost, and it is his fault. So I like the sort of complication of, that's also like my biggest fear, I think, is accidentally killing someone. I'm happy to go for it, but if I accidentally, that would be, I think it's, and I've read so much stuff of people who've done this and first-hand accounts and all that, and it's truly, I have nothing but empathy or sympathy, whichever word is correct for that.
Empathy.
Like, as in, it's just awful, and I don't know how you live after it. But that was the kind of idea of like taking this person and what does how do you continue? And really, Jimmy, we've seen, has been helped by community, and then this guy has no community and partly self-imposed exile, you know?
And then, so the conversation of you playing it, was it apprehension? I know that there's different opinions about it. This is not a Ted Lasso situation.
Oh no, this was not a Ted Lasso. So I was not going to play it, and it was Jason's idea, and Bill did not want me to play it, and he's been open about that and very sweet about it. He did not see it, but Jason Segel, it was his idea, called us into his trailer and he said, "Why isn't Brett doing this?" And I wasn't sure either, because it's a tough, it's a different, very sort of, I don't know, vulnerable, emotional part. But Jason was like, "You're the guy." And Bill thought about it, and then Bill sent me a very sweet text where he said, "I believe in you as an artist, and if you think you can do this, I will back you and support you." And I said, "Thank you, Bill, that means a lot." And he said, "But this entire season rests on his character, and if you fuck it up, you kill Shrinking." And I said, "Okay, thanks."
When I was talking to Jason, he said maybe his best day ever on a set was shooting the final episode of Shrinking season 2, and specifically the Thanksgiving scene where Harrison Ford gives a speech about accepting his Parkinson's and being grateful for the people around him. What was that scene like for you, writing and shooting and watching it, especially knowing that Harrison's character having Parkinson was partly based on your own father?
What was amazing is how many times he did it. He filmed that from every angle, and he was crying every angle. In the back of his head, he was still crying. It was really wild and amazing. And then he's funny and just always so self. At the end of the day, I sort of hugged him and said, "That was amazing." He was like, fuck, I don't know, it's nothing. And then he's off. And you're like, everyone's dead. That was really something. And there was so many people in that scene. It was the opposite of the episode. There's a load of the Liz's kids, and there's like, he was doing that. It was really something.
You once said that drama without comedy is bad art.
Yes, I stand by it.
The story goes...
Laser boring.
Yeah, that's thematically. That's why I'm asking. The story of Shrinking goes sort of you and Bill had parallel ideas, and your idea was more dramatic, and Bill's idea was more comedic.
Yeah.
And then Jason sort of figured it. You guys with Jason merged it, especially in a moment where there are debates around, especially around award shows, of what constitutes a comedy. How dramatic can a comedy be? How funny does a show need to be a comedy? What do you think?
Funny.
Yeah.
It has to be funny. It has to have jokes and be really funny. It can be as sad as you want, but it's got to have jokes and be funny. It doesn't have to have jokes, it's just got to be funny. I think it's got to be funny. Right? To be a comedy?
Yeah.
And to be a drama, it just has to be an hour.
So one thing that ties Ted Lasso, Shrinking, and your special together is the Muppets, and more specifically, Sesame Street.
Yes.
So for this question, we have guests.
That's good. What? Hello, mate. Hello, mate. Are these yours?
Yes, in a way.
What's this one?
You put a cookie in its mouth.
Okay, that's really great. That's great.
Despite for doing stand-up for 17 years, you seem really deliberate about having only one piece of solo comedy available while you're sort of on Ted Lasso in your ascent, which is you doing the entirety of the Muppet Christmas Carol in 6 minutes for charity.
Yeah.
What was it about the Muppets that influenced how you think about comedy in your art? Is there any specific scene or moment you remember watching a Muppets movie and go like, this expands my mind, this is the sort of energy I want to put out into the world?
Muppet Christmas Carol is truly possibly the greatest film ever made. And I don't say that, I say that with love.
Yeah.
Because it's the greatest story ever told, the Christmas Carol. And then the Muppet version of it, you get it with Muppets. Mm-hmm. But they don't fuck around either. Like, it's dark. It's truly dark. Michael Caine is in a Holocaust drama. He's playing it like, as he should. And there's jokes. But it's very, very moving and a profound story that takes the bits that it should take seriously, while still being magical and has so many like little running jokes, and I just think it's magnificent. And it's and also the kind of craft of it, like when you see like the behind the scenes, it's fantastic.
So in the special, you talk about going to film Sesame Street and it being the best day of your life.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through that day? The non-stand-up version.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you turn up at Sesame Street. I remember being nervous, like, oh shit, what if they're all dicks? Like, this will be so bad. This will ruin my life. What if they're dicks? Like, what if it's like just people shouting at each other?
Yeah.
Get Elmo down. You know what I mean? But one of the reasons I loved it so much is the reverence that the people making it have for it is the same reverence that someone who loves it has for it. And still on season whatever they were on, 350, this isn't the original performance, but they are trying to give it the same sense of heart and soul. And you see that. And when you go onto the set, in fact, they sort of hold you back. You don't go into the set, they do your makeup or whatever, and then they took me into the... and on your door, your dressing room, they have Sesame Street type fragosine on the door, which you get to keep. And then you go in the set, and there's like a box of tissues because most people burst into tears, and they're so used to it.
Yeah.
And you go in, and it's like fucking Sesame Street, and you're like, I can't fucking believe this. And then I did like the first scene with Cookie Monster, which is why he's my... And he was so funny. Like, I really pissed myself. I was shocked how funny Cookie Monster was. And it was like not unlike Ted Lasso. It was funny that working with Elmo and Grover, and they would, seriously, in the script, I get tied up in a skipping rope, and there was a discussion between Elmo and Grover, like, how is this happening? Like, it can't be stupid. Like, we have to earn this moment, and like choreographing it together. Like, they took it seriously with love.
Yeah. Go for it. Oh, I do not think he knows how to play this game either. I know how to jump rope.
You know what I mean? It wasn't, no one was going, it doesn't matter. Like, they were like, this has to logically make sense that he's going to get stuck in this skipping rope. And it's just brilliant. Everyone's brilliant. And there is something, I don't know what it is, and I'm sure some people do not feel this way, but I think it's to do with the leap. I think what makes it so lovely, and it's similar to how I feel about stand-up, is that stand-up you can't do on your own. You do it on your own, but you have to do it with an audience. You can't rehearse it. You can't practice it. You can only do it with an audience. And it is an active thing with an audience. The audience can't sit there doing nothing. The audience have to give love to get love. Truly, I think that. Like, if an audience sits with their arms folded and goes, fucking impress me, they are going to see a less good gig. They are.
Yeah.
Because you've got nothing to surf on. If an audience gives you energy, they will see a better show. So it is a two-way street. And with Muppets and puppets, there is a thing of like, here is this thing. We both know that it is a thing on my hands. But if you invest, I will invest, and this magical thing will happen.
When you're talking to them, did you look in the eyes of the puppet?
100%, immediately. I'm a goner, immediate.
Yeah. I've met Kermit, and you look at, there's a person's hand, and you do not see the person.
And I like that Jim Henson didn't pretend otherwise. Like, you see him with a kid, he's got Kermit Frog, and then he goes, I'm going to win, and he puts it in the box in front of the kid and takes his hand out. It's not, and it doesn't matter because it's still magic.
Yeah. Then talk me through, you have this experience to then go on stage and it builds to the Cookie Monster joke.
That's a few bits that became one bit. And why the show is called Second Best Night of Your Life is because of Sesame Street. Because I have the joke, Sesame Street was the best day of my life, but now I have to continue living, so everything's shit. And I wanted to call my show Second Best Night of Your Life, so it's like, I want you to have a really good time, but I still want you to
get to meet,
have a better night in your future. The Cookie Monster part of it came out of whenever I did the questions in the box. I think every time someone would ask, who was your favorite Muppet? And so I improvised that a few times, and then it was like, this is This is a bit. This should be in it.
All right, that's the end of the Muppet section. Can you say goodbye to the...
Goodbye, Muppets. It's really, I love you.
So I was trying to think about how this special fits into your career as a whole. And, you know, besides Ted Lasso and Shrinking, you've written a number of movies and a few TV shows. And I know David Lynch is a big influence, even less about directly like, oh, I want to make things in a style, but the idea of how he approached his work and thought about his career. In so much as we know what it means for something to be Lynchian, do you have a sense of what Goldsteinian means?
Oh, dear. What is Goldsteinian? I would like it to be something that's at least attempting to be made with love, but and it's probably got some sex in it. Is that it?
Yeah, well, this is my theory.
Go on.
Having consumed a lot of your work in a row, as a sort of writer, so thinking of sort of stand-up, Ted Lasso, Shrinking, Super Bob, all of you, the movie you co-wrote that's coming out later this year about two friends who take a test that says they're supposedly soulmates.
No, but they're not soulmates.
Oh, it says they're not soulmates.
But they still love each other.
But then you also have the AMC show Soulmates, which also people take the soulmate test. And then also you're shooting Office Romance, which is a rom-com you're shooting with Jennifer Lopez. The most recurring theme I see is the question of what is love and what does it mean to be able to be loved?
God damn it, you should write a drama book now.
Is that true? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I think that is true. I think everything I write about is really what is love. And there are always things about love. That's all, because that's all that's interesting, isn't it?
Why to you?
Because why is love? Oh, well, it's sort of the connection between people. That's what's it's the relationship people have with each other, and that's when I lock into. I once saw it I think it was like BuzzFeed, and it was like sitcom tropes we're sick of 10, and number one was will they won't they, and I was like, hard disagree. That is the stupidest thing I've ever read. I was like, will they won't they is the best thing ever and will always be, and it is why you care about stuff. If you take that out, Frasier is an amazing sitcom. You telling me you want to take out Niles and Daphne, the thing that makes you come back every week? Will they won't they? You want to take out fucking Ross and Rachel? Will they won't they? That's all we care about.
Yeah.
The rest of it's fun, but we're in. Cheers, we're in because will they won't they? Sam and Diane. That's the thing that draws us in. It's when you're hooked. Is the love bit.
Yeah, I guess it's also, speaking of connection, love is the most direct, connection can be a somewhat abstract idea, and love is the easiest way of translating ideas of connection to an audience.
Yeah.
Where they understand love between a couple. So you're but ultimately all your ideas of how humans interact can go into that.
Yeah. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah. So as an actor, this is what I was thinking, sort of, you excel at playing men who are at conflict between a difficulty communicating and their desire to be understood.
God, you're good. That's me.
Does that feel like you?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I don't know, man. Childhood.
Do you feel like it's a man thing? Do you feel like it's a
I think
British
it's a man thing. But I think it's certainly British to keep everything bottled up and all of that. I think you are saying something that feels very truthful. This idea of don't look at me, I don't want to be seen, but also why aren't you understanding? Oh, because I didn't explain any of it.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably true of men and women and everyone. I think I can't speak for everyone, can I? But I think that's definitely something I've experienced when you go well, obviously I think this, and the other person's you've never expressed any of that. I was supposed to read that from your sullen face. Yes, you were.
You don't have to give it away, but can you share the sort of influences and touchstones that you're thinking about going into Office Romance?
Yes, I can. I can tell you exactly what the aim of Office Romance is. It's like an old school Nora Ephron type romantic comedy with hard R jokes. That's the aim of it. It should look and feel that sort of lovely old school proper big rom-com, but with slightly ruder jokes. That's it.
And
But the same heart, the same.
And you're like, who is a rom-com actress? It's Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez.
And then choose to play the part of Jennifer Lopez. You're like, let's ask Jennifer Lopez.
That's exactly what happened. And she's amazing. She is one of the great comic actors. She's just brilliant.
You know, as we spoke about before, the moment before Ted Lasso, accepting you're just going to be a guy who's working. You're not going to have the Brett Goldstein show, but that's okay. You're working, you like the work you're doing.
Yeah.
And then cut to now, and seemingly you're really close to this sort of career where you get to do the things you want to do. No one's, especially now, is instant green light, but you get to make the things you want to make right now. How are you thinking about it? How does it feel?
Amazing. I'm so grateful. So grateful. Can't believe it every single day. Every single day, can't believe I get to do this. Have the feeling of probably will end all tomorrow. But again, it's sort of a joke and kind of not a joke. I did Sesame Street, so it doesn't matter. Like, if I get shot in the head later, I had a fucking great run. I did Sesame Street. That is much more than I expected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. I really am doing the things that I wanted to do. It's very, very amazing. And
how?
I'm very lucky.
Do you sleep? Like,
I don't sleep. That is the downside is I don't sleep. I truly sleep 4 hours max. I sleep very badly, but my brain's on fire. It's constantly on fire.
So now it's time for the final segment of the show. It's called the Laughening Round. It's like a lightning round, but because it's a comedy podcast, I call it a Laughening Round. Do you have a favorite joke, like a street joke?
I guess the one that I like is like, oh, it was terrible. This morning I was at the airport and I asked for this woman behind the counter had large breasts, and I said, could I get 2 pickets for Pittsburgh? And the friend says, oh, you think that's bad? This morning I said to my wife, I meant to say, what time do I pick up the kids today? But instead I said, fuck off and die, you've ruined my life.
I've never heard that one.
That's one of my dad's.
Is there a joke from another comedian you wish you wrote? Everything's exactly the same, but this joke gets to be in your act and you get to tell it.
There's a bit in Adam Sandler's 100% Fresh that's one of my favorite bits of stand-up. It's such a simple story, but when do you remember the bit he goes to go on a roller coaster, and his wife and kids, it's 2 people seats, and he's with his wife and daughter. So the wife and daughter automatically take the 2 seats, and so he has to sit on his own. And then another guy, stranger, sits next to him. He's like, oh, fucking hell. And as the roller coaster goes, they get like jolted, and they look at each other and they laugh. And then the adrenaline kicks in. They go on another thing, and then he looks at each other and he's like, "Are we in love?" I think that's it's such a lovely bit.
Yeah,
I'd nick that.
Would you host SNL?
If they asked me to, yeah.
And so at the beginning, they go, what would you like to do? Like, they'll be like, oh, I've always wanted to do what would you want to do on SNL?
I actually have an idea for it, but I don't want to share it because it's a real idea that I think would be a really good sketch. But I'll maybe make it. I'll just make it. But yeah, I'd love
what's the general area? It's just so when it happens, people are like, oh, that's when I first heard about that.
It's I don't know what you call those shows. A reality contestant show?
Yeah. Competition show. Reality competition show.
Sort of.
If I asked you any question about playing Hercules in the MCU in the future, should I believe what you say? Or no matter what I ask, would you lie?
I will tell you, I have nothing to say on it, and you can believe that.
Should I
As in, I have nothing. As in, I don't know anything and I have nothing. Just that is the truth. But you can think I'm lying. But I'm
I actually
not.
believe you. How much money did you spend to use "Yesterday" by the Beatles in your special?
Now that is amazing, isn't it? That is amazing. You know what? I am very grateful, very lucky. I wrote a letter to Paul McCartney and I said, I get it. I get it, brother. This is a big deal. This is a big song. But I said the context in which I'm using it, I think is pretty beautiful. And I'm saying that your song has changed the world and saved people's lives. And please can we have it? And we got from it. And he said yes.
For free.
I think we paid us. I think we whatever the version, the publishing or there's one price for the thing which is like standard for everyone, and then there's the thing which is like millions. That bit was free, so we paid whatever you have to.
Yeah. You're very fortunate. As fast as possible, can you walk me through your workout routine? People have asked, so if just they're curious.
I do weights 4 times a week, and then I do 2 days of cardio, and I do Pilates once a week.
Push-pull or?
Push one day, pull the next day, legs, back to push.
Oh, double push.
Well, if you're only going, you got 4 days to fill. You've only got 3 things to do.
Low rep, heavy weight or high rep, low weight?
Mixed.
Do you have any advice for an aspiring actor, comedian, writer?
My advice is always make your own stuff. And like I say, and I always think it's easy for people who are currently making things, it's easy for me to say, but I lived it. The big thing didn't happen until I was fucking 38. And I was working for 20 years before that. And in those 20 years, I made stuff at a very small level. But I loved that is my advice, is make stuff, write stuff, do open mics, do everything. You have no excuse. You can say, well, but you just have to not sleep.
Yeah.
There's enough time if you don't sleep.
Can you think of a joke that didn't work, that you'll go to your grave thinking was funny? And you're like, I was right there wrong.
Something I've sort of discovered maybe that I think is interesting about comedians is people will accept. I often talk about this. There's a guy in England I won't name, comedian, very, 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 very good comedian. I genuinely think he's one of the greats. But he has glasses and he looks like a professor. Mm-hmm. And I think people see him as a professor. And he did some sex stuff in his show that was great, fucking great jokes. But the audience didn't like it. And it wasn't that they didn't like the jokes. They didn't like him doing jokes about sex. And he told me this. He had this realization halfway through his run. He was like, but they don't want me to talk about sex. And I was like, those jokes are so good. And he was like, yeah, and I can't do them. And I think for some reason I'm okay. People don't mind me talking about sex.
Yeah.
But what audience, they don't like me doing one-liners. I've discovered. I'm not great at them anyway.
Yeah.
But every time I've had a thing that is just a one-liner, they go, no, we don't want that from you. No, thank you.
Do you have one?
It was something like, they say, be the most interesting person in the room. So when I walk into a party, I go, I'm bleeding. Something like that. I think that's good. Okay.
Last one. What's the best time you ever bombed?
The best, as in a fun, like I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you were like, you know what? I'll always remember this as a...
I don't enjoy bombing. It's very depressing and so weird. It's so weird because you also you feel like an alien. You're like, and it's so objectively true. It's like, well, if you're not into this, then I guess I'm not funny. I can't prove you wrong now. If you've collectively decided, and you do feel like, they call it a death because it does feel like that. You feel like a ghost. You're stood there like, can you see me? What the fuck is happening?
Did I speak this entire time?
Yeah.
Was there a time that was the most memorable?
I got invited to Ibiza to do a gig, and it was me and a comedian called Rich Wilson and a comedian called Catherine Ryan, brilliant comedians. And the three of us flew to Ibiza, and I was thinking, I don't know what this is going to be like, but it was exciting, and it was like, they flew us out. This was like the first time I'd gone overseas to do a gig, and I think it was probably paid quite well. And we were going to stay in this hotel where the gig was, And anyway, we get there. It's not the fun part of Ibiza. It's like the other end of the island. And it turns out it's like a jet ski convention or something. And when we get there, we arrive and the guy's really excited, picks us up from the airport and he's like, tomorrow I'm going to take you on the jet skis and we are, everyone's going to love this. It's the first time we've had comedy here. And we go to the hotel and there's like, it's outdoors that what they're going to do. And I look at this and I'm like, outdoors is bad for comedy. My gut tells me this is not great. And there's stages here and there's like dinner tables, but it also is empty. I'm like, where is everyone? They go, oh, they're on a booze cruise for the day. And you're like, oh, fuck, what? So then this load of people return to the hotel. And what I'm hearing their chat is like, I overhear like someone going, fucking hell, her tits fell out. We was all laughing. Everyone's talking about this girl's tits fall. Fucking all of this. I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is good. However, the thing starts. I think everyone's tired. They've had this long day. So I'm thinking it's going to be raucous. And in fact, it's not. It's pretty quiet, but it's full. Mm-hmm. Everyone around these tables. There's like an MC who wants to play music for them. No, they ignore him. And then he goes, oh, for fuck's sake. All right, well, here's your first act. And he brings on Rich Wilson. And Rich Wilson, who is a fantastic comedian, does a great job to silence. And he looks at me and he goes, I think he says into me, fucking hell, Brett. He goes, good luck, son. And he brings me, so I've watched and I'm going, okay, I've done this before. Mm-hmm. This is bad. Okay, so what does this audience need? I think what they need is high energy. I got to come in big. They're going to, mm-hmm. What is happening so far has not worked. And these are good people. These are good people.
Good jet skiing people.
We said some good people. It's like, it's tight. So I go on big, much bigger than I normally do. I literally go on like this, yeah, onto the stage. And I pick my sort of 5 bangers, like usual sort of closer type, bang, bang, bang. I go, yeah, bang, bang, the best stuff I have, bang, 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 5 minutes. I stop, silence, total silence. To the extent that I go, maybe the acoustics aren't, like, it genuinely is like baffling. There's nothing, not even like a titter, nothing. They're not heckling, just silence. And I go, like a bad comedian, I go, tap the mic. I go, can you hear me? And they all go, yes. And I go, oh, do you just hate me then? And they go, yes. And so then for 2 minutes, I, in a funny, we're trying to make Rich laugh, go like, oh, we've flown here for this. I came on a plane for this. This is you horrible, trying to be like comically angry. Nothing. Actually, no, they're just staring at me. I'm going to be you fucking nothing. And then I sort of stop, but it's still silent. And I go like, and I've never in my life up to this point ever left the stage early or done, ever walked up. I've done 7 minutes. I'm supposed to do 25. I go, I say, true from my heart, I go, I genuinely don't know what to do with you. I don't know what to do now. Silence. And then I go, do you just want me to go? And they go, yes. But then I do this because I think this is funny. I leave the stage and I run straight back on. I go, did someone say encore? Silence. I'm like, you fucking cunts. And then I left. And then what made the whole thing so much worse is I then had to sit back because we're in this, I have to sit with them. They take a break. They then, in this break, move everything up to the stage. So now everyone's up by the stage. And then Catherine Ryan goes on and kills. Kills so hard that it's like, I guess it's playable. I guess it is playable. And then we're then stuck with these people. Can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
We're on an island. And I have to spend the rest of the evening with these people saying to me, you should have done what Catherine did. And I go, well, I talk about my kid. And they go, she's really good at this. you should do more like what Catherine did. And I'm like, she is really, really good. But you can't say to them, it was slightly effective when we moved. Like but you're right. Yeah, of course you're right. Objectively, I should have done her set. And then I had to stay another day. The guy disappeared. He did not invite us on jet skis. We never saw him again. I then was like a rat in this hotel because I then didn't want to go down for breakfast and see the fucking same people. So I was like hiding in alleyways, waiting for a chance, like run and grab some bread and go back to my room. It was awful. It was bad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I look forward to your book.